Good evening and welcome to the premiere of We Are Flame. We Are Flame is a unique collaboration between WigLe Dance CIC and Hawk Dance Theatre that brings together an amazing cast of emerging and professional dancers from across Wigan and Greater Manchester. It's a celebration of Wigan's cultural manifesto, The Fire Within. We hope you love watching the film as much as we all loved making it, so sit back, relax and enjoy.
Like dormant mice or popping corn, these kids been sleeping in boxed-in bedrooms lonely, waiting to dream, watching the world living through screens and wanting, really wanting to become all that they can be. So watch me and learn, watch me and burn. So watch me, I'll help ya. Together we'll spin the world. Filmmaker, actor, director, be the boss. MUA's glow up today. Model, catwalk, pause. Young creatives are sick innovatives. They know the future is tick, tick, ticking. Feel this energy just trickling. And Northern Lights will give these kids a leg up. Watch them flow. When you shove a compass in a shook-up can of Diet Coke Supernova, watch it go. Pop, 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 pop star, West End rapper, be the boss. Indie band, manager, making profits, nothing lost. These 21st century free steppers are fast as fireworks. They are spinning, running, ducking, diving, stratospheric future stars. These kids are zooming, jumping, falling, flowing. They'll be driving fancy cars. Designing VR gameplay, animator, be the boss. Sculptor, painter, click, photographer. And it's us who find new stories, to walk, and it's us who change the way we think and we talk. Only we can turn dust into dreams. Only we can mine seams and find wings. Only we can turn out into bling. DJ, VJ, writer, touch the sky. Graphic design, street mime, clown, no tears to cry. Might be burning, but we'll show you a way through the smoke. We are an idea explosion. We're the best at telling jokes. We are support for each other. We're a peg up to the top. We're a bag of bursting energy. Keep on fighting, kind, don't stop. Dancer, choreographer, bloggers, spill the tea. Fashionista, be the boss. Thinkers, makers, we succeed. Underestimate the power of our creative bodies and brains. We've got the fire within, we are the future, we are flame.
Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Q&A for We Are Flame. I'm Gary Clarke, and I have been acting as artistic mentor on this project. And you've just watched the brilliant film that's been created by this fantastic company of artists and young people. So we're here tonight. The session will last for about an hour. I'm going to kick things off, and we will talk in depth about the process. And then we'll segue over and ask for some more questions from our young producers. So before we get started, I'm just going to ask everyone to just introduce yourself, please. Give us your name and tell us what your involvement in the project has been. So Amy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so my name is Amy Bird and I'm the producer on We Are Flame, and I was involved in the original idea and concept for the film, which is part of our bigger 2-year programme called WigLe Produces, which has been funded by Wigan Council through the Community Investment Fund.
Great.
Hi everyone, my name is Josh Hawkins and I am the choreographer and director of my company, which is called Hawk Dance Theatre. And for this project, I've been brought in and welcomed as the creative director. So I've really enjoyed bringing all the elements of the project together and helping the dancers to choreograph their material, directing the filmmaker and working with the collaborators in the process.
Hi, I'm Louise Fazaclair. I am a poet who lives in Wigan, and I'm responsible for creating the lyrics or the words in response to the brief.
And hi, I'm Lee. I am the composer on the project. So I wrote all the music for it and then put Louise's wicked words to the music.
Hi, I'm Joel. I was one of the professional dancers on the project.
Hi, I'm Robin Brown and I was one of the emerging dancers on this project.
Is it me?
It is you, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen. I was one of the emerging dancers.
Hello, I'm April Martin and I'm involved as a young producer for the Wigan Dance Festival.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm also a young producer with WigLe, and I also got some behind the scenes footage for the We Are Flame project.
Hi, I'm Lydia and I'm also one of the young producers at WigLe Dance.
Great. Is that everyone? Have we covered everyone? Yes, brilliant. Well, it's fair to say that this project has been amazing from my side as a mentor. You know, coming into that studio on day one and seeing the energy that was created and the amount of creativity and inspiration and support for each other was so inspiring for me. And I think what really struck me at the beginning is to understand all the different layers that was part of this project. That's what makes it so special. So Amy, can you just talk us through about where this project came from? What was the seed of the idea? And then how did you bring it together? You're on mute, Amy.
The We Are Flame project has come sort of as a culmination of the last 4 years of WigLe and everything we've done. We're the dance development organisation for the Wigan borough. And we've spent the last 4 years focusing on creating really good networks and progression routes for young people within Wigan. And that includes community dance classes, our youth dance company, and a big dance festival that we run every year that's usually a live event. So this time last year, well, a little bit earlier, February 2020, we were at the point where we were submitting a really big funding application to Wigan Council that would sort of see the growth and development of WigLe continue over the next 3 years. And that programme is called WigLe Produces. And the We Are Flame, the film, which wasn't called We Are Flame at the time, it was called, we just called it the Fire Within film, was the kick-off for that project. So it was the first big thing that we were going to do. It was the first big event. And we wanted it to reflect the Fire Within Manifesto and also highlight talented young people across Wigan, talented young dancers, because we knew from our past experience that there were there's so much untapped talent in Wigan, and we wanted to put it at the forefront of people's minds and really show it off. And the reason that it was going to be a film is because this year is the Digital Wigan year of the manifesto. So there are 5 different years, and this year the focus is all about digital. So that's why we wanted to make a dance film. Little did we know that come March 2020, we would be limited to, online delivery, and our world would be turned upside down. But we were really lucky because we still received the funding, and actually this part of the project that we planned could still go ahead because it was a film and because it was digital. So it was almost as if we planned it, we planned it perfectly, because a lot of the plans didn't really need to change. So yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
And something that really struck me was the diversity of the groups as well. You know, you had a group of amazing professional dancers right down to littlies. Like, was that part of the original concept, was to bring kind of different groups from all over Wigan together to collaborate? Because that's something that I found really inspiring and very special and quite unique about the project.
Yeah, I think originally we'd imagined that it would just be young people. So it would be young dancers aged 24 and under. But from a previous project that we'd worked on, where we'd had professional dancers working with younger dancers, and it worked really well. What it did was elevate the quality of what we'd made. So what we made looked better than anything we'd made before, and that wasn't a reflection of the young people that we worked with in the past. It was a reflection of how professional dancers and young people can collaborate and make something very unique. So it was something that we wanted to explore further with this film. And I think the way that we ran the creative process really enabled us to do that and introduce this idea of mentoring that trickled right the way down through the process.
And I think you could really witness that, and you could really feel that in the studio, and not only, you know, from the professionals, but vice versa as well, because it felt like a real joint effort, and it didn't feel like it was on any hierarchical structure, that everyone felt very, very equal in the room. And I felt like there was a lot of respect in the room for each other, which again I think is really, really unique. And so at what point did you bring Josh into the room? Because obviously you needed someone to help direct this and pull it all together. So how did this collaboration happen?
Well, we'd worked with Josh in the past. He'd worked with our youth dance company and created a really amazing piece that was really successful, and we got to tour to some regional platforms. And Josh was also at the studio, at WigLe Studios, rehearsing his piece. The box, is that the name still, Josh?
Yeah, kind of.
So he was kind of around, and we were in touch, and it was getting to the point with this project where I guess because of the January-February lockdown, it was really unclear what was going to happen, whether or not we were going to be able to do it, whether we could get anyone in the studio at all, whether, you know, it was just really uncertain. So it kind of got to the end of February when Boris made his big roadmap announcement, and I thought, actually, the deadline for the film was the end of April. I thought, you know what, 12th of April, we're allowed to open. You know, 29th of March, we're allowed to go outside. It is doable. And I might have been a bit mad thinking that because it was an insane turnaround, like so short. But yeah, so I was sort of telling Josh about the project, and I think he was as mad as me. And we both just kind of thought, yeah, we can do it. We can make it happen. It's what people need right now. You know, the world feels, at that time it felt quite uncertain, and you know, no one knew what was going to happen. Everyone was fed up of lockdown, so it just felt like we needed to inject some colour and some happiness, and to change some perceptions of what young people, you know, are going to be like post lockdown. So we were just both really keen, and yeah, it was just a partnership that worked really well. So I'm really glad Josh came on board. It was just good fortune that he was around.
Yeah, and I think what a perfect choice. You know, just me and Josh have worked together on many different projects, and I know he's really passionate about young people and dance, creativity, and film. So when I found out he was on board, I was like, you couldn't have got anyone more perfect. Josh, so talk to us from the very beginning. How did you start the process?
Yeah, well, like Amy said, it was kind of one of them things that really happened quite quickly and quite like naturally. And before I knew it, I'd signed up to kind of direct and choreograph this quite big task, really, in a really short amount of time. But in a way, I was really excited about it. And obviously, like Amy said, it was coming out of a time of, you know, everyone had itchy feet and we're all dying to do something creative in the studio. And actually, it was all my favorite things to do kind of in one project. You know, Amy was saying, you know, you can take the lead on it, you can bring all the elements together, you can choose the collaborators, and you can kind of run with it. And then, you know, she was saying you can direct the film and you can edit it, and I was like, I just loved it because it was all things that I was excited about. So it kind of started with a conversation in the studio, and then it was emails back and forward, and then me and Amy sort of picked to pieces the manifesto, the Fire Within Manifesto, and we just got really even more excited about what was possible and the ideas that we could potentially start to make happen. And we were really just excited about the idea of kind of this post-lockdown future of young people in Wigan, just showing how talented they were and showing that kind of young people can be whatever they want to be. And I don't know, everything was kind of on their doorstep. And that was the idea, really. And then Amy had mentioned how she wanted to make this film really special. And so instantly, I don't know, Louise, you popped into my head straight away, and I thought, words, poetry, narrative, dancers, it's kind of what I love, and it's what I've been doing a lot of recently. And I just knew that Louise was the perfect match. So me and Amy put all them random ideas together about young people, this fire within their bellies and this kind of overflowing of creativity and outburst of ideas. We kind of put all that into an email to Louise, and we said, do you think you could write us some gorgeous words about this? And we had a bit of chat with Louise. We had a couple of Zooms, and I've worked with Louise on a few projects before, so I knew that it was just going to work, and it really did. And before we knew it, we had all these gorgeous words in these lovely rhyming textures, which again, it was a really nice collaboration, and it happened really smoothly and fast. So I think that really worked because we had that kind of existing relationship. And then another collaborator who I love and I work with a lot, Lee, I'd said to Amy, you know, we've got to work with Lee. He totally gets it. He loves this way of working, and he'll love the freedom of responding to this and responding to Louise's words. And then Lee was tasked with basically bringing this film to life with inspiration from Louise's words and inspiration from Wigan and what kind of that meant. So I'm sure Louise and Lee will both kind of talk more about their kind of elements. But for me, all this bubbling pot of ideas started to come together. And before we knew it, in such a short space of time, we'd come up with this epic kind of score of words and music. And it was all kind of laid out for me, ready to go. And I was planning with Amy, and we had loads of ideas, probably too many ideas. And then Amy was getting more excited about it, and Amy said, "Oh, we could squeeze in a few more professional dancers into the project, or we could get some more emerging dancers in, or we could get this community cast in." And before we knew it, it was becoming this quite exciting and really ambitious project. And for me, like I said, it was just perfect. It was just a really exciting thing to kind of get stuck in, and this should have been how 2021 started.
Yeah, well put. And I think it's fair to say that Louise's words really gave you that starting point, didn't it? I know you worked very, very closely with words and movement, and I think that was really successful, and that really comes across in the film. And the words play such a strong part. Louise, words, where did you start? Because there's some lovely textures in there, and I think the language is really rich and really right for Wigan. So how did you put that together?
It seemed like a really natural project for me to work on when I was given the brief, because, you know, I'm from Wigan, grew up in Wigan, and when I was a young person, I didn't really believe that you could have a career as an artist. Wow. So, like, I did theatre studies and creative writing at uni with a plan to go and work in HR, because I didn't realise it was possible to make a living and fulfil your kind of creative urges or whatever in a professional way. So I was excited to work on the project because I thought that is actually my path. And I've got two creative teenagers who may or may not work in the creative industries, who knows. So I could kind of see from their perspective how they have been locked away and have very little stimulus, and how actually they just can't wait to get out in the world and achieve and become and change and grow, and all those exciting things that you can do with the arts, with dance and drama and music and photography, and all these exciting things that make this digital world we live in. Like over lockdown, we've all been consuming it hectically. So I think it's exciting to think that moving forward, we're all going to be hectically creating as well. So I suppose that's part of my kind of feeling about starting the project. It's always great to work with Josh because Josh is a very strong leader. So in terms of he sets quite strong boundaries. And as an artist, boundaries are important because when you can do anything, it's a bit trickier. Whereas when you've got kind of a commission, you've got boundaries, it's got to be about X, Y, and Z. That's actually really helpful for the creative process. And I think sometimes younger artists or less experienced artists don't necessarily realise that a boundary is good. So that was kind of nice. And I suppose I was thinking in terms of like, where does the language come from? I like to mix the idea of dreaming with the everyday. So for me, the idea of having like a can of Coke, that's like a, you know, like a object that fits kind of teenage lifestyle. And then I want to mix that with the idea of wings and flying, because that's a bit more dreamy. So that kind of vibe, the idea of having a bit of fun using words like bling, you know, it's just like a bit of like a joke, really. Let's add some humour to it. Art doesn't have to be totally like, oh, I'm a poet, or oh, I'm a dancer. You know, we can react with the real world around us. So that was kind of something that I wanted to have in the work. And also those real world jobs, like I mentioned about my aspirations, I didn't really have that many other than just get the degree in the easiest possible way, which was for me was to be creative. So I really wanted to kind of reflect all these jobs that you could do. It's not just like the council or the arts council spending money on kind of useless things. It's actually really practical and pragmatic and useful. So I thought that was important. And in my career, I've found that having a support network, having other artists, more experienced artists who I work with, give me a hand, give me a peg up, throw work my way is really important. And I think sometimes when you're beginning this journey, you don't realise how important it is to have good relationships with other artists, to be nice, you know, and to get on with people. It's like really important in terms of working. So I thought all the stuff in terms of developing each other and sharing skills, it was like important. And then I have run a drama school in the past in Wigan, which is called Create Sparks, and I run a young writers group across the north, really, in various places digitally in Manchester and Wigan, called Ink, which is like Ink inclusive. So it's like for everyone, no matter what stage of writing you're in. So I know that in my position, it's important for me to support emerging writers and stuff. So I kind of wanted to get that content in, and Josh and Amy were very clear that it's about developing people. And then I could go on forever, me. So I'll just say two more things. One thing I'd like to say is that I wanted it to be accessible. So that's why like there's quite a lot of rhyme in it, because when people think about poetry, they think about rhyme, and the ear likes rhyme. So like, let's have a load of rhyming, and then people are like, oh yeah, I get this. This is a poem. That's fine. This is good. And what else do I want to say? Oh yeah, and then just like the bits where it was to do with like the professions, I was thinking about Vogue a little bit, you know, like, and that idea of a catwalk, because I knew there'd be opportunities to have maybe solos or duets or like ensemble pieces. So I kind of wanted, and Josh had said, like, make sure you get some words in to do with moving. So I wanted to kind of give the dancers as much chance to, you know, get up in the air and get on the floor and use all them levels as they can without having to grasp at the words and think, oh, what can I do with this?
And I think something that really strikes me about the poem as a whole is it's so empowering, it's so positive. And I think like post-lockdown, I think like Amy was saying, the world needs that. And I know that a lot of the, you know, the participants really enjoyed dancing to those words. Like the young empowerment really kind of came through really strongly. I thought it worked really, really well.
I knew that Lee would be working on the music as well, and I've worked with Lee in the past and I really trust him. So I know that that he's got the capacity to add some kind of softer, more sensitive things, but also to like pick it up so it had high energy. So I thought, I need to give him something to work with, you know, something with some like.
So Lee, let's move on to you then. So what was your process like? You got the words first. I mean, it's such a textured soundscape over 7 minutes, beautiful and energetic and soft, you know. So how did you go about putting that together?
Well, it clearly it all for me came from the words. I got the words through, listened to those through. And like Louise said, we worked together before, and I trust Louise, I really trust Josh as well. So talk about vision and process. There's a shorthand there immediately, and I know what both of those like. They know what I like and how I work. So that really helps. And it's tricky at the moment. Usually I'm in the studio with the dancers and I'm writing music with a company, and we're all collaborating together. So it's a bit weird this time because it's getting some words, me doing the music, and then just trusting that's going to be all right. And it's a bit odd, but again, it's that trust, it's that level of trust with Josh and Louise's words. But yeah, just making sure that it was pitched right from the start of the poem to the end of the poem, so that the first bit was really dreamy. So it's quite a dreamy track. The second track more of a pulse through it, more driving. Again, picking up on that Vogue thing that Louise was talking about. I didn't know you were thinking that, Louise, but it's got that sort of pulse, and it's slightly wrapped, and it just feels really nice to work with. And again, making it accessible for dancers. Using a pulse beat, using a 4/4 pulse beat really helps that along. And then the last track is me and Josh talked about Northern Soul. So I made a tiny Northern Soul beat, like a little swatch of music, and then made a mad track. It was crazy, explosive, just like an explosion of color and life. And it's what it needed at the end. It needed that fire, it needed that just to take off at the end. So it was picking the right palette throughout and building in the right way, and then releasing at the end.
And how was your process, Lee? Would you do a little bit and then go away and come back to it? Did you do it intensively? What was the process like to make that?
I did it fairly intensively. I worked with the words. The words just absolutely helped me. So I knew the sort of length that we were talking about making, and I knew that it was going to be 3 tracks, maybe it's something else as well, maybe a 4th one, but 3 tracks mostly. And I knew the sort of flow that it would need to be to really show the words off. And it went really quickly. I started, and then it felt like an easy process, really, in many ways, even though it's hard doing this stuff sometimes, but it felt like a really natural, easy process, because it felt like it was going to be met at the other end of it with gusto. People were going to really get into it.
Yeah, great. Well, then that neatly goes on to then us transferring into the studio, because I know, Josh, you had that track, didn't you, from the very beginning? That actually gave you almost the foundations of what you was going to do in the studio with these amazing young people. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what that process was like, because when you asked me to do the project, one thing you kept saying to me was it should be a celebration of all these different people with all these different styles. And that's something that many people might not know, actually, is that the many different styles were in that room, in that process. So talk to us about that approach. How did you approach that? And how did you manage that?
Well, I'm from a contemporary dance background, and one thing that WigLe kind of celebrates is lots of different dance styles. And Amy kind of made that clear to me at the very start. She was like, although you're a contemporary choreographer, you're going to be working with lots of different styles. And I was just super excited about that. Like I'm really excited on my own separate dance journey. I'm really excited about this idea of fusing styles and bringing things together. And one thing that I'm really interested in at the moment is making dance just for everyone. And I'm really excited about making stuff that people can watch in the street, and anyone can enjoy it, whether they know what dance is or don't know what dance is. And I suppose for me, this project was that, and that's kind of what we spoke about with Louise, and that's why I knew Louise was a match. I knew that Lee was a match, because they totally were on that wave of this project has to be for everyone, and somebody could watch it on YouTube or walking down the street or pop into the studio and they just connect with it. So I think I was just more excited about the idea that actually it's not just contemporary dancers. We had lots of different styles in the room, and yeah, I'd kind of had ideas in my head, and I work really well with structure, so I'd kind of structured out this thing in my head into solos and unison-y bits and traveling bits. And actually I thought about it as a film more than a dance piece. And I kind of knew that bit would transition into that bit, and I knew that it would start with a close-up and then go into this. So I guess I could just really see it, and it really helped working with Amy, because we'd gone out on site locations before, and we'd seen these spaces. So for example, the start shot that you see in the park, with that big bandstand in the background on the steps, we'd seen that, and I already said to Amy, right, that's the beginning and that's the end. And I'd kind of had that clear vision, because I knew how it would look and how it would work. So when I went into the studio, I gave the dancers bits, and I kind of gave them spaces and bits to make, but with complete freedom to respond to the poem and the music in a way that they wanted to, whether they wanted to work to Louise's words and story tell, or whether they wanted to just ignore the words and dance, whether they wanted to use the Northern Soul influence, the dreamy soundscapes, and yeah, it was just a super fun process, and there was no blocks or full stops, and it just flew.
So it's fair to say that you gave everyone in that room creative license. And I saw that really clearly. Like, everyone seemed to flourish in being creative. And I think that's really important when we do projects of this nature, is to nurture creativity and strengthen that and support it and encourage it. And I thought that was a real success about the project, is that everyone felt like they were flourishing and growing. And just moving on to like Joel and Robin now, in terms of being in that studio. Joel, what was it like to create movement to these words?
I think when we first heard the poem, it was really refreshing to like hear the words, and also like the way it was spoken and the energy that was given off. You could tell there was like a lot of love behind the words as well. So it was nice just to listen to it, and then to choreograph to it was really a cool experience, because for me, I hadn't been in the studio since December. So it's been like the longest of my whole dance career that I haven't been in the studio. And then for Josh to give us a bit of freedom with our movement, it was just nice to be able to expand and try and push the boundaries of what we could do with this amazing poem and these amazing words and music. And then we also had to think about the young dancers that we had, because we were choreographing a piece that they would have to dance. And I think to have that in the back of the mind, and to try and push the young dancers and to also mentor them and show them a little bit, was really, really nice, especially after the year that we've had as dancers and artists in general. It's been a bit tough for us also. I think the whole project was amazing, because we got to like be on set, which is amazing for the artists, the young people to learn what that's like, but to be structured, but then also to be given space as well, I think. So there was parts where we needed to dance a certain way and do a certain thing, but then we were also given the freedom to be ourselves as artists, which was amazing.
Yeah. And Robin, what was it like for you working with professional dancers?
I think at first it was like quite new and quite different. Like after being online for so long and like learning, especially like learning from the professionals, to then go into rehearsals with the professionals was like really cool and like different. I really enjoyed the process and like working alongside them, like choreographing and like doing different pieces with them after like hearing the music, and it was just like a really inspiring project to be a part of. Like I don't think I've ever done anything like it before. It was nice and fresh.
It was a new experience for you.
Yeah.
And is it something you would do more of? You know, have you got
Yeah, 100%. Like I really enjoyed like just having like that under like, now I've done something like that, I can know that I can do stuff like that again now. Like the experience and the knowledge what I gained from it, especially like working alongside like my mentors and like my professional dancers, like they taught me so much along the process, and I think I'll be able to take that into the industry like further on, which is really nice.
Which is amazing. And I know, Amy, that's something you were really keen on, wasn't it? Is this idea of passing down and learning?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, it's about valuing young people's contribution as much as the contribution of adults, and knowing that we have, as adults, have a real responsibility to help young people to flourish and creating environments where they can build confidence and be creative without the fear that, you know, what they're doing is wrong in some way, or that they're going to get judged, or that they're not going to be as good as someone else. It was such a diverse group and everyone was so different, and everyone was matched really well to the mentors, that they just felt like there were no barriers to anyone's creativity or passion or just ability to take part in what we were doing. So it felt really unique, and really, you know, it felt like we were pushing boundaries, I thought, you know, disrupting the old ways.
And I think it's fair to say that it was successful on all levels. And I think there's always a danger, isn't there, when you get such a diverse group of people, that there's recipe for disaster. But actually, it was managed really well. And I must say, I must kind of congratulate all the participants of how brilliantly professional everybody was, and the level of respect was just fantastic to see, and so inspiring for me to see as someone else working in the industry. So yeah, big well done. And Karen, what about yourself? Because I know you couldn't partake necessarily the whole project, but what was your experience like? Oh, you're on mute.
I felt like it kind of like it was definitely challenging, and I kind of went out of my comfort zone at like very, very beginning. But then as the day progressed, I got more comfortable, and I feel like I liked it how it was like one-on-one, because I was able to pick up the dances better, and it felt like I could obviously do better. And like I was able to be more creative whilst doing the dancing.
And you mentioned there it was slightly out of your comfort zone. So what was new for you, Karen? What was the new experience?
Well, it was kind of doing new styles and a new way of doing dancing with like new people.
Yeah. But that's how we grow, isn't it? I mean, did you enjoy that by the end, once you get used to that?
Yeah. Once I got used to it, I felt like I was comfortable, and I was just able to do more, like be more creative and more passionate about my dancing.
Fantastic. Great. Brilliant. Josh, I just want to quickly talk a little bit about the kind of film element and the locations, because what I think the film does really well, it shows off Lee and Wigan. You know, it's so amazing just to see these fantastic sites and landmarks. And I think you've done a great job at highlighting those. So you touched on it before with you and Amy. How did you choose these iconic statement locations?
So me and Amy spent the day together whizzing around to different places. And I'm from Manchester, not Wigan. So Amy was kind of taking me on a tour and showing me different spaces. And to be honest, Amy kind of done a really great job. She'd found like a variety of green spaces that had lots of options in there. She found some like town centre locations. We found some like water locations. We found locations with a bit of height. So I suppose what the process of that was, we went to see loads of places, then we had to narrow it down because actually we only had 2 days to get through it. And it was a bit of a logistical task because we had lots of bodies and we had this extra kind of COVID precautions to be aware of. And it was kind of a bit of a juggling act of how we could make it all work in such a short space of time, and make sure everyone was safe and socially distanced. But there was something just really exciting about the freedom. Like Amy was, you know, whatever we wanted to do, we could find spaces to match it. And it was important for us that we were in locations across the borough, but we were also in locations that people would recognize or people would see, or if they didn't recognize them, they were just beautiful places. And there was reference to sort of Wigan's old heritage, and sort of the future of Wigan and kind of these new spots and the kind of places that young people might recognise and visit. So like one location was the Astley Colliery. So it's like an old coal mine, and all the young people on set, it was amazing. They were like from that area and they turned up and they were like, oh, I didn't know this place existed. Oh, I've never been here before. And they were they were just excited as us. They were like, oh God, look, you could dance on there. You could do that. It looks like a film. So that was fun. And then also kind of pushing them out the comfort zone, sort of dancing in the shopping centre with people walking past and watching them. Yeah, it was really fun, and the freedom to kind of take over Wigan and bring dance to different spaces that maybe haven't been danced in before was fun.
And Robin, what was that like? What was that like, dancing in all these outdoor spaces?
It was really, really fun. Like it was like, especially around the public, like I quite enjoy like performance and like performing to different people. So, and I've not been able to do that for ages. So that was really nice for like people to see us dance, and like in locations too where I've grown up, and like it was nice to like bring it back, because especially with all my training now, I'm never home. Like I'm always away and doing different things in different places. So it was nice to like bring it back to where like I came from, and like back to like where it actually began for me.
Oh, that's very nice. And Joel, what about you? Similar experience?
Yeah, you put a camera in front of me and I'm gonna be happy any time of the year. But I think it just to dust off those cobwebs and to be performing as dancers, it's something that we just love. I love performing, and I think I will always love performing. So it was just nice to be working with such an amazing cast, who were just, everyone was so lovely, and it was such a inviting space. It felt like we could work with each other and push each other's ideas, and it was just nice to just be a dancer again. I loved it.
And Amy, have you got anything else to add in terms of that or the locations?
Yeah, so the starting point for choosing the locations that I did was the manifesto and the Fire Within. There's a map in the manifesto of cultural organisations and heritage sites and green spaces. So that was really the starting point, which felt natural because the film was about the Fire Within. So all the way through, we're going back to the original idea and to the manifesto. So it really is a visual representation of that. It's a beautiful document, and this brings it to life in another way. So we chose a real mix of the places that are in that map. And even if we weren't able to get in or go to the places, because some areas like, you know, the Old Courts, which is a gig venue and a theatre, the Turnpike, which is a library and an art gallery, those venues are all shuttered and closed at the moment, so there's no access. But we were able to use the exterior of the buildings and include all those cultural venues, which felt really important as a, you know, to just say those venues are still here. There's kids and there's young people waiting to access them, and the whole cultural ecology in the cultural sector in Wigan is going to be back soon. It's not just about dance.
Yeah, amazing. And I do think we're going to very lucky to have this film. And the great thing about film work is it can stay around forever. It can add to that legacy. I was saying to Amy and Josh before, you know, I'm from a working class town called Barnsley, and I really wish we had a, you know, flame film to kind of celebrate people and heritage. So I do personally, I think it's a wonderful thing that everybody has been involved in. I think it's fair to say it was a real group effort, and it was really, really collaborative. And I think it's a really good example of when you put good creative brains together, magic can happen. So, like, well done, everybody. Okay, so it all went really well, but let's talk about any challenges. Were there any challenges that you came across, Josh, or areas that maybe didn't go so well? Did you learn anything along the way? Is there anything that you would do differently?
Well, I definitely learned a lot along the way, and honestly, it's probably one of the most ambitious projects that I've done, and in such a short time scale. So there was a lot of learning and a lot of challenges along the way. But I guess, like you just said, the team was so good, and the people involved were so lovely and so supportive and so committed. Everyone was so committed to the project that actually there wasn't any problems along the way. And actually, it was a perfect process in the fact that everything flowed and was natural. I mean, it was challenging. There was a lot of work to, like me and Amy said the day after we finished, we were like, do you feel shattered? Because it was like 3 weeks worth of work in 4 days. It was fast paced and it was demanding. And, you know, we were working outside, which comes with all sorts of challenges. Like we were so lucky with the weather, but, you know, the dancers were having to, you know, wait in the cold. They were filming with coats on, coats off in between takes because they were so chilly. And, yeah, I mean, I'll let the dancers say if they experience any challenges, but on my side, I loved it, and the challenges for me came with sort of all the brain work behind the scenes, and I suppose a massive challenge for me has been in the editing process, because I've now got 2 days worth of gorgeous footage, which is like I think there's like 40 dancers or something involved in total, and we did different shots in different locations of different bodies and people, and then my job is now to kind of bring all of that together. And one thing that I've been really aware of bringing it together is I want to make sure everyone's seen. I want to make sure everyone, every bit, all the bits they created are in the film. I mean, that's just a challenge.
Yeah. And Joel and Robin, what were the challenges, if any?
Probably just the cold. Sometimes it was just cold, but I brought a hot water bottle, so I think I'm used to being on set. I've done it a long time, and I've been in a lot worse situations than this one. But yeah, I think it was just the cold, because we had 2 days in the studio to get everything, so that was quite a lot of time actually to get everything done. So yeah, I think it was really smooth. I don't know about Robin, but for me, yeah, just the cold.
Robin?
Yeah, I think if anything, it was when we first got into the studio, because especially with COVID, like wearing masks as we danced, like that was quite hard at first. But when I first heard the song, it was so different. But like the music that we were gonna do the piece to, it was so different at first. And when Joel told me that I had to choreograph a knee, I was like, I have no clue what I'm gonna do to this. Like, but once he started pointing out certain bits in the music to me, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like, so I think if any struggles, it would have been those, but it did run really smoothly, and yeah.
And it's funny that you see them as struggles, but actually it's just learning, isn't it? It's just developing and learning.
Yeah.
She was amazing. She was like, we all had bits to choreograph, and because I met Robin before, and she's an incredible dancer. I knew that she would be able to do a lot, so I wanted to give her a section of my piece so she could choreograph and so I could dance with her doing her stuff as well. So it wasn't just my piece, it was our piece.
Yeah.
So when we danced it together, it was like this instead of being separate. And she did an amazing job. She was phenomenal. Very, very, very lucky with all the young artists that we had. They were all so incredible.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, I'm just going to now hand over to some of the WigLe young producers because I'm aware we've got a few more questions. So who wants to go first? Lydia?
Oh, sorry, you go.
Lydia.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say, so I think you've done so well to create such a great sense of community and cohesiveness throughout the entire piece. Just one of my question is, how do you find transmitting the artistic and creative intentions and atmospheres different for a dance film in comparison to something live?
I found it a similar process because we were all working to the same thing. So for me, it was different, and it was a challenge to kind of communicate how I saw the film to the dancers, so they were kind of seeing it with me, and they all probably thought I was nuts at times because I was doing this with my hands and I was zooming into their eyes and things like this. But it was the same process if I was making a film or a live show or a outdoor performance or indoor performance. It was the same process, and the dancers kind of actually responded better, I think, to the idea of being on film because they could imagine it, and the piece with the poetry and the music was so cinematic in the fact that it felt like you listen to it and it is a film. It feels like your characters within this film, and it feels magical and enchanting. So I think the dancers actually brought that to life, and they could really respond to the idea that it was going to be a camera. And when I was describing close-ups and the camera moving and following them, I think it really helps them to understand where I was kind of seeing it going.
Mm-hmm. Great. April?
Hi. I think growing up in this area, like, it's really inspiring to see that all these landmarks that we've grown up in be on film, but also see dance happening as well. Touching on like what Louise said earlier about she didn't really think that she could have a career in the arts around here, and I also thought that, and that wasn't really that long ago. So it seems as though it's getting really exciting in this area, and the ball's rolling for emerging artists in particular. So I think my question is both for maybe Amy and the dancers, and how that has inspired you working back in your area, and what's that given you? So maybe that's inspired you to come back and maybe create some more art once you finished your training. So yeah, open it up to how that's inspired you.
Amy, shall we start with you?
Yeah. Well, I was exactly the same. I grew up in Leigh, grew up in Wigan, and I was always having to leave to go and train, and it was so frustrating. And even when I started WigLe, culture just wasn't really massively on the agenda in Wigan. And what I wanted to do, we kept getting kind of shoehorned into like physical activity or children and young people, and I just kept saying, but we're a cultural organisation, we want to do culture, we want to do art. And it feels like this project is the first time that what we've done is art for art's sake, but it's art to develop people, and it's art to develop young performers and to develop professional dancers. So that feels really refreshing, because for the first time we've been able to create a homegrown piece of art that just didn't have any other sort of outcomes other than create an amazing film and develop some amazing young talent. In the past, it's always been, you know, how many people took part, how many hours did they do, what was their mental well-being like afterwards, and none of that you know, those outcomes were all there, but none of it wasn't the reason that we were doing it. And it just felt so refreshing. As I don't know what you feel like, Josh, but it was like, you know, it's what we've been working for for a cultural project to have that status, and a dance project especially to have that kind of status it's amazing in the space of 4 years. And actually, the model of young people being mentored by professionals is, as a youth dance training model, I think it's something that's got legs, and it's something that needs to be kind of developed, and it's how we're actually going to take forward the rest of our work. So the rest of the WigLe Produces program, we're always going to have an element of professional dancers involved, and a community cast who are just starting their dance journey, and an emerging cast who are, you know, about to go into this big world of dance, because that combination is just, it feels magic, and, you know, it can be applied to, it'll be applicable to every project we're going to plan. So it feels exciting. Yeah.
And Joel, Robin, and Karen, like, have you been inspired by the project? Are you taking things away?
Yeah, I think I said this to Amy. As a professional dancer, like, I'm from a small town as well, and then I left that town, went training, and then went on to my dance career. And I think sometimes I forget where I came from, and it was so nice to be brought back to the community aspect, because sometimes we're just on big performances or on TV, and we forget where we came from and the community aspect, and how much that helps. And I think for me, it was really refreshing to be brought back as well, and to be around all these amazing young people that wanted to do something that I'm grateful that is my career. So I really, really was inspired, and I think it came at a right time for me. During COVID, I needed that for myself, and it was amazing. So I'm very thankful to be part of this process.
And Karen, what about you? Even though you were short time.
Well, I liked how the fact it was local, and because it was all like everything was like familiar to me. So obviously that kind of removed that element of like being in like the unknown, and so it made me feel more comfortable. It also like inspired me to like see how what we do have within the actual Wigan borough, like what we have, instead of having to look like beyond the borough to be able to be creative and to do well and show your passion. Where if we had like, it kind of like shows that we have everything you kind of like need to be passionate within our own borough.
Which is really great, isn't it? You know, that's fab. And Robin?
I think it just showed me like how many people go into like one production, and like how inspired I was off everyone's like input into the production. So like usually as dancers we don't really get to see everything that goes on. Like especially on stuff I've worked on before, it's just like we get given the music, but like on this project I think we really got to see like the behind the scenes and what really went on, which was really nice to like actually get to know, and like how much work gets put into things like this. Even like on this Q&A now, like I've learned so much already.
Good. Thanks, Robin. And Jessica, do you have a final question?
Yeah, my question is about inclusivity and diversity. As someone who grew up in Wigan, I was always told that if I wanted to have a creative job, then I'd have to go to London, or I'd have to go somewhere where there was a lot of culture. And I think this film is kind of making people realise that there is culture in Wigan. But I think my question is, what more can be done to promote inclusivity and diversity within the creative industries?
And that can be open to Louise and Lee as well, if that's of interest.
I was just going to quickly say my kind of response to that is like, I've got this new kind of like motto that I keep telling myself, and it's like, I just want all my projects they don't need to be inclusive. They can't be exclusive. They can't just be for one kind of circle of people, and they need to kind of not be exclusive, and open doors for people, and just act as that kind of door opener, start to something that maybe they haven't seen before. And I think projects like this, like seeing such a diverse mix of styles, dancers, ages, abilities on screen together as part of one project is, if anybody in Wigan wanted to start dancing but wasn't sure if they were going to, I think they'd know where to go now, and they'd see, they'd know that they were kind of welcome there, I hope, and they knew that there was a space for them, somewhere to go.
Yeah, it definitely felt really important that everyone could take away and see themselves in the film in some way. And that goes across all different ages, all different backgrounds, experiences, dance styles, even in terms of the music. I feel like the music is so eclectic that there's something for everyone. And that was really important in terms of representation as well, in that everybody could see themselves represented in the film. And I think we managed to do that well. So I think that's what, going forward, we'll especially, that's something that's really high on our agenda, to make sure that everybody feels like that about our projects. And I think that's how, as a sector, the creative industries is going to move forward, is making sure that everyone is represented in work wherever possible.
Fantastic. Such a great message. And Louise, I know you had something to say.
I think I wanted to say that, you talked about moving away to find work, and it is important to experience all different working arenas, and to meet new people, and to get excited by cities and different countries, and working rural, and that's really important as a creative. But also, there's no harm in being a big fish in a small pond, and actually that's a real strength. So like for me, in terms of like working as a poet in Wigan, excellent. I can work as a poet in London, but there's not many of us in Wigan. So it means in terms of work opportunities, you're generating more work, and you're generating closer networks, and the close relationships, like when Amy was starting WigLe, it's so exciting to see her journey, how successful she's made it. And I've seen that grow, and it's exciting to work with other creatives in your own area. And then also, as a working class woman, you kind of embrace whatever it is that you are, in order to be do you know what, sometimes in a project I will be the working class person, in another project I will be the woman, in another project I will be a mother, so whatever your characteristics are in the broader picture, you embrace that and you sell that, because that's a way of making work, and making important work as well. So I feel like that's important. And also, I suppose, as a booker, when I book things and program things, I will look at what I'm booking and programming, and I'll say, is this balanced? Is this just full of white men? And there's nothing wrong with being a white middle class man. Be who you need to be, or who you are. But I will look and I'll think, have I searched hard enough to book artists who we might not meet in Wigan and Leigh? Have I done that? And we do have a responsibility to do that when you're in a position of power.
Great. And Leigh, have you got anything to add to that from your side, from your industry?
I think for me, it's not dumbing down what we do, no matter who we work with, and I think that gives it the class that it needs to stand as a great piece of art, but also an accessible piece of art, so that we can all see ourselves in it. That's why the music's so varied in there. The words really, really hit, and I think if you create a piece that is, just don't dumb it down. We're all artists on this call now. All the people in the video are all artists, and can take a lot and can do a lot. So let's expect a lot of each other, and just and enjoy it, and just really, really enjoy it. And I think that comes across. I think people find that accessible. I think people want to be in that party, and they'll be like, I want to do that. These are my ends. I want to do what they're doing. So it's a great advert. It's a great advert.
It is, yeah, very much so. And again, as a witness from the project outside looking in, I can see that everyone that's been involved has thoroughly enjoyed it and have got so much out of it. And I get a sense of pride from everybody as well. It feels like everyone's really proud of the achievements, not just of the results, but how the project was managed and how it worked and all of the collaborations. It feels like a really good, strong example of how things can be done. I think so. Like, again, I just want to say well done to everybody. And Amy, like, what's next for WigLe? Because you've got this amazing studio, you've got a brilliant future ahead. Like, what's next on the agenda?
So the film We Are Flame is actually launching a bigger program of digital dance. So now we are working on the Wigan Borough Dance Festival Digital for 2021. So in July, we've got 30 different schools and groups and individuals and professional artists who are all now going to take what we've made, take the Fire Within Manifesto, and they're all going to roll with it and create their own much shorter pieces. So it's going to be a really exciting event in July. And then carrying on from that, we've just put together an amazing team of young producers who are going to work with us to program the next 2 years and work out what the next 2 years looks like. So it's an incredibly exciting future ahead, I think.
Fantastic. Well done for all your hard work. It really is showing and paying off. Right, I think that's it. I think we're run out of time. So if that's all right with everyone, we're going to finish there. But thank you all so much. That was a fantastic conversation and such great positive vibes coming from it all. So well done. And what a fantastic film. So yeah, round of applause to everybody. Okay, without further ado, we'll finish there. Thank you so much for joining. And we hope you enjoyed the film, and we'll catch up with you very soon. Bye-bye.
And I am the creative director for We Are Flame.
Hello, my name is Clarke and I am the mentor for the film project.
We're really excited to have been awarded a Community Investment Fund grant from Wigan Council for the next 2 years to create a programme called WigLe Produces. And We Are Flame is the first big project as part of that wider programme.
So my role as a mentor on the film project is kind of multifaceted really. I've worked a lot with Josh Hawkins. He's brought me in to help facilitate the room. I think it's fair to say it's quite an ambitious project with many different experiences of people, different age brackets, different dance styles, and sometimes that can be quite challenging.
We just finished the first day in the studio where we brought together 7 professional dancers, a newly commissioned poem and sound score, and we started to form creative ideas that will form the chapters within our film. The professional dancers have come from different styles, so we've got some contemporary dancers, some commercial dancers, and today's been a real day of figuring out how we work together and how we share our styles and experiences in the space. We've just finished the second day of the project and it's been a really amazing day. We've seen the professional dancers and emerging dancers working together and sharing material and creating new material together. And it's been really exciting to suddenly see the piece come together quite quickly and a really exciting exchange of ideas, skills, styles, and the project is really shaping up to be something really unique and special. the next 2 days, we're going to head out on different locations across the Wigan borough, filming the piece in indoor and outdoor locations with the filmmaker. And I'm really excited to see how the piece is going to start to come together and what the end product will look like.
It's super exciting. It's the first time I've been in Leigh and I'm really impressed and taken back actually at the WigLe studios and what Amy and the team are doing here. I think it's fantastic for the region and you know, as a visiting artist, I'm blown away.
We Are Flame promises to be a really inspiring, dynamic and powerful film.
I think the Fire Within is a very, very unique, celebratory, brilliant project to almost break up and lockdown and what's been happening in COVID. So keep your eyes peeled for this exciting film.
We can't wait for you to see We Are Flame, and we hope that you'll be inspired to create your own dance films as part of the Wigan Borough Digital Dance Festival, which is coming in July 2021. If you'd like to hear more about We Are Flame or the Digital Dance Festival, just visit our social media pages at WigLe Dance CIC, #GetAWiggle On.